guess we're ready. Everybody can hear us?
No, no, we still have to. Try that again.
Hello, hello, hello. There's a walnut. Wide open.
Yep.
You got it.
Lynn, it's just you and me yet.
Okay. And I think, Tom, you're going to play one of your favorite tunes to start off with, is that right?
That's what it says here. So here goes.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, I'd like to ask about your family and where you were born.
Well, I was born in Peterborough on Lake Street, and
Kurt?
during the course of learning my trade plastering, I wound up playing or plastering the room I was born in. And my dad, he came
Can you move
from
that box?
Cavan, and he moved to Boscawen, but he was a Cavan blazer. And I wondered about this Cavan blazer a bit. I said, what could I have with the Cavan blazer? And Dad said, well, what we'd do sometimes is if, say, somebody needed help, we'd sneak in at night and maybe put up a barn or do something at night and do something really nice for them. But then on the other hand, if somebody was kind of against the Cavan blazers and they weren't doing the right thing, they'd go down and maybe burn a barn down or two. And I said, well, what did you really call yourselves? And he thought for a minute and he said, we were a good bunch of sons of bitches. So anyway, that was my dad. And he played the violin. I always said he played the violin and he fiddled with my mom. My mom was a school teacher, one room house school teacher. And our first mass that was said around here, you know, in the 1890s, 1900s, around there, the first mass was said around here was said in my grandmother's house. So they always had took great pride in this. And anyway, that's so much about that now then.
Okay. And how about when you were born?
I was born on Lake Street.
Oh, here. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And your mother was from Lakehurst?
My dad and mom got married and moved to Lakehurst and built a house there. And most of our family was from there. And I had 3 brothers, 3 sisters. 3 girls came first, and then Jim, Dad, and Tom. I was the youngest and probably the best. I said I was a planned child, and my sister always said, like hell you were.
Just a minute, Len. He won't keep his hand down. I can't get his good-looking face, so I got to move. There we
All
go.
right. Some of your childhood memories or pastimes and so on and so forth?
Well, my childhood memories were, we had no money, so I had to go out and earn money by catching bait, you know, for men selling them, and shoveling walks for a couple of old neighbors there, 25 cents a walk. Heavy snowfall, 50 cents, you know, I used to pray for snow all the time. And my best hobby was playing music. We had nothing else to do, we had no TV or anything like that, so I would play music. I had a friend up the street that played a guitar, and we got together right in the time we were 7, 8 years old, and we went up from there. And
Turn that thing
well, that's about all my childhood memories, other than playing hockey and baseball like everybody else.
Well, it's normal around here anyways. Well, any hobbies or so on and so forth like particular?
Well, hunting, I used to hunt and fish, and
Yeah.
and of course sell bait and everything. And my first harmonica, my friend had an uncle, Father Finn was his name, and when he was 14 years old, or when I was 14 years old, he handed me a harmonica with a chromatic button on it, and he said, "I'll give you this if you promise to learn it." Well, I said, "Absolutely, I certainly will." So, and this is how I learned to play this chromatic harmonica. And he would come probably every 2 weeks to make sure I was progressing to learn how to play this thing. He couldn't do it himself. He couldn't play it well himself, but he made sure that I played. And I really have to thank him for that, because I had to be sure, because I was always afraid he's going to take it back. And I got to tell you about the fish in the bathtub. I used to catch these minnows and bring them home, and hundreds of them in pails. I'd go to Jackson Creek and catch them and bring them home, and I put them in the bathtub. And I'd have to get them ready to take them up and sell them. And we used to get a half a cent each for these minnows. You know, so, you know, it wasn't much, but it was a lot in those days. So one day I went up to find out just how these minnows were coming, because I wanted to sell them that very night. Fishing season was opening and everything, and I looked in the bathtub and there was no minnow. There wasn't a minnow there. And I just said to my mom, where did these minnows go? Did somebody take them? And it turned out that at that particular time my sister had a date. And she had to have a bath. And I guess the minnows got down into the Otonabee River. Anyway, they went.
They're gone.
They were gone, yep.
And you're in school pageants and stuff like that?
Well, first time I played a harmonica in front of people was at the Lyceum Theater in Peterborough. That was between George and Water Street on Simcoe. And it was a theater. And I was 6 years old. And I went up there and I was scared to death. I was just almost throwing up. I was so scared. And my mom was sitting in the audience. It was just packed. And I got up there and played my little ditty there, and I kept eyes on my mom and hoped that I never made a goof. And I come through it okay, and the people all clapped, and little Tommy walked off the stage, and I just wringing wet from sweat, you know? But I pulled it off. And when I'm on this harmonica bed, I got to tell you about Stan McBride. Everybody around here must know Stan, mayor of Peterborough one time. Well, he lived just around the corner from me on Dublin Street, Edinburgh Street. I lived on George. So we had a minstrel show going. You might have seen the pictures up here. So anyhow, we were playing in Omemee one night, and big time, right? And we're in there playing away there, and Stan introduced me as Tom King, harmonica specialist, 14 years old, just come in fresh from New York City, Ed Sullivan show. You know, we're going to jail for sure. So everybody stood up and clapped. So I got out there and played my ditty, and I had 2 or 3 spots on that show, so I played and got over with it. And our next gig was at PCBS Auditorium. We were supposed to play 2 nights. So we wound up he said, you can't let this out of the bag, Stan says. He said, you've got to go along with it. He said, it's out now. We had some friends from the Examiner wrote it up. They had no clue what was happening, except this was legitimate. Tom from the Ed Sullivan Show. Our 2 nights at PCBS worked into 2 solid weeks, and we packed it every week. And every night after the show, I stood out for a half an hour to an hour signing autographs. And every time I'd sign, I'd say to myself, you're going to jail. I'm trying to say, they're eating it up. They're just eating it right up, eating it up, you know. So anyway, that was my story.
And you're sticking to it.
And I'm sticking to it, yeah. So what?
You're getting kicked out of class too.
Getting
right?
kicked out of the class.
You weren't
well,
that bad, were you?
Yep. Actually, I was a good student. But we had this sister that taught us in St. Peter. And her name was Sister St. Gilbert. And the story was that she was about to be married, and she was left at the foot of the altar, and she became a very nasty person after this. And towards pretty well everyone, including. And anyhow, she said, we're doing Greek mythology at this time. And he said, I do not want to hear one snicker or one sign of laughter or anything from this, and I'm telling this story like it is, and God pity those, you know, that stand in my way. And so anyway, she said, we're talking about the great god Pan. He wanted to make a flute. So he took forth a reed from the earth, and this is where she got me. He took forth a reed from the earth, and he blew the pith out of it. I broke up. And she says, out with your filthy mind. So there was 2 of us went out, and one lad was Joe McTague, and he turned out to be Deacon Joe. So Deacon Joe, he's been a deacon he's over in St. Martin's now. He's been there since 1972. Been Toronto and over there, and he was one of the lads that had the filthy mind. So anyway, that's the story of Sister St. Gilbert. Oh, and another one. Tonight I walked in, and Harold Kidd said, you've got to tell this story about the turkey. And I said, what? What turkey? I said, now I know, I remember. Well, here it goes. If anybody knows Art Henderson and Dot, they live down the River Road. They live just down at Lock 23, right close to Gail's mom and dad. And so Christmas Eve, they had one hell of a fight, and they got along good, but they drank a little. And then the fur flew right there. So they had an awful fight. And he said, I'll show you what I think of this. So he grabbed the turkey, and he took it outside, and he threw it right across the river. And it was all ice, and so the turkey just slid right across, and that was that. So I think sort of patched things up after that, and they went to bed apparently, got up the next morning, it was Christmas Day, and we all come down to see Art, and there was Art out on the edge of the Watonega River fishing for a turkey. Trying to catch that freaking turkey. And eventually he caught it, and he patched everything up, and they had a hell of a Christmas.
Where's the first job, Don?
My first job, I was 12 years old, and I worked for my uncle Harold Crowley, was a barber on George Street. He run a clip joint there. You can laugh if you like. And but anyway, I got $2.50 a day for 9 hours, 9 till 9, and that was a lot of money for me. And when I was 17, I come home one noon hour from school, and I said, I quit work, I'm done, I had it, or I quit school. I said, I just can't take it anymore. And my dad said, okay, that's fine. He handed me a pair of overalls. I was at 12 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, I was mixed in mortar for my dad. He was a bricklayer and a plasterer and stonemason. And that's how I got started on my trade. And he taught me the trade. So, and then I met Tony DiCarlo, who was a plasterer, and him and I became pretty good pals and eventually partners. But he was the master plasterer, not me. He taught me so many things. So anyway, do you have another question, sir?
Oh, chief.
Well, when did I meet Gail?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. This is gonna take some time.
You better tell the truth, because I know
I
it.
was up
Can't
in,
lie.
Gail, could you keep it down? I was up in Mink Lake, and we're building a cottage, Tony and I. We're building a cottage. So across the lake was another lad building a cottage, and it turned out to be Gail's dad. So Tony said, there's a guy over there plays a guitar, and he plays it really well. And I said, well, he's gonna have to play it down good to beat this Jack Finn, this friend of mine. And so Tony took me over in the canoe, and out comes this great, big, huge man, oh, he's 6'3" and just 250 pounds of nastiness. And that was Gail's dad. I realized he was a pretty good guy, but he comes walking out, and he says, he challenged me, I hear you know how to play a harmonica. And I said, yeah, I do, just like that. And I thought, you're not scaring me a bit. So he said, you know how to play Stardust? I said, absolutely, just like I wrote it, get your guitar. So we went in, got his guitar, he come back out, and what key are you in? I said, key of C sharp. Tuned the guitar up, he started playing, and I dazzled him. He loved it, and we became great pals after that. So, anyway, he invited me into the cottage. Let's have a rum and coke. So we do that. We're having a rum and coke, and we're playing away there and just raising hell. And all of a sudden, out from the bedroom come this Tasmanian devil.
I'm leaving.
And I quite cool. Cut out the goddamn noise. I gotta get up and drive 100 miles to work in the morning. And I looked at the father and I said, what in hell was that? He said, that's my daughter Gail. I didn't know whether to throw her a bone or get out of the house. So all this happened because Tony introduced me, and after that I didn't know whether to kill Tony or kiss him. But anyway, it turned out she was the best thing ever happened to me in my whole life. So that was that. Another question, sir.
And you were married when? November?
Oh, November 10th, for printer, yeah, we got married. Well, the dad had a lot of shotguns.
A lot of shows to get rid of.
Oh, yeah. We were heading, I gotta tell you, we were heading over up to Sault Ste. Marie, and at that time there was no bridge. And so there was a ferry boat there. So anyway, we got all set to go, and the customs guy says, what are the guns for? And it was November, and we always like to hunt and fish. What are the guns for? And I said, have you ever seen her old man? So they sent us back, and we had to go out around, out around the head of the lake.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, that was another story.
Whatever possessed you to come to Lakefield?
Well, when we got married, I lived in Peterborough, and Gail lived on the River Road at 10th line there, and she didn't want to live in Peterborough, and I didn't want to live on the River Road either. So, we sort of compromised. We moved to Lakefield and moved to 2 Prospect Street. We got married at November 10th and moved to 2 Prospect, and that was Mrs. Major's house. And we lived there 8 years, and then we went to Chippewa Avenue, and we lived there 8 years. And then went to our present site just out past Rosemary Manor, and we've been there 21 years. Well, I'm going to tell you about living at Prospect Street. I'm sitting on the lawn. It was my custom in the afternoon on Fridays to get home pretty early, 3 o'clock maybe, and get Gail worked with me, by the way. But we get Gail to mix a rum and coke and I'd sit out there and watch all the traffic go by, you know, and sit there, and I just had the world behind on the downhill run. And anyway, this day around the corner comes this half-ton truck, and it was Kevin Heffernan. Who's the other one, Kevin?
Dick, I think.
Dick McCracken.
Oh, no.
So they come around the corner and they stop, and I was sitting there having this rum, and Dick, I guess, said to Kevin, "Have you ever heard this guy play a harmonica?" And I guess Kevin said, "No, I haven't." So they stopped in, and we got in there. So then we thought, well, we'll all have a rum and coke. So, so we did, and I got out the harmonica and started playing a few tunes. And the first thing you know, December that year, I got a phone call. I had this new phone that had messages on it. So the message on the phone was, "Would you like to play up at St. Paul's for Christmas Eve?" And I think it was Betty Ann Heffernan. And I thought, well, sure, why not? You know, let's try it. I always wanted to play in church, always. So we went and we played in church. And I think I played 6 songs that time, and we wound up having a great relationship after that, 20-some years. And because they all sang in different keys and everything, every time they wanted to sing a song, I said, well, I don't have that harmonica with me, but I'll get one. So I make sure I bought one, phoned to Newmarket, and they would send a harmonica down. I wound up, I've got a whole bag of them, I must have 25 of them. And it, not only this association with the whole Heffernan family made me a better musician, but it made me a better person as well. And I thank them.
Do you want to share a few moments of people in Lakefield here? With being plastered or?
You mean like John Mose, Mary, Larry, Sauter? Well, Gail and I plastered Mary's and Larry's funeral home, and we were there from October till January, putting big moldings in and ring molds around lights and everything. And during that time, there was 31 or 35 funerals in that place, and we'd get working there. We had to work when we could because it was busy all the time, and we'd have a scaffold built, and Larry would come in and say, "Gotta take her out there, boy, there's a funeral tomorrow morning." So we'd have to take that whole thing out. It was like big like this, and it would take hours to take it out. And so we would do that. They'd have the funeral, and they'd be wheeling the poor fella out, and we'd be putting the scaffold back up. So, but during this time, it was 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We had everything tarped off, you couldn't see anything, but the tarp would open. "Tom, it's time. Gail, come on." And we'd say, "No, maybe later, maybe later." So eventually he got that he would open the tarp. He wouldn't say a word, he just put a tray down, and there'd be wine for everyone and goodies. And we'd have to come down and share that with Mary and Larry. And we become the best of pals over this association. They were very nice people, the whole bunch of them. And we did Gord Blake's, and we were in there 9 months doing molding. And everybody's got to know Gord. Gord didn't have any wine, but he had a liquor cabinet if you wanted. Oh, you got to read this.
Oh, yes. I've been known through the years as an avid hunter and fisherman. Is that true?
Well, it says it right there.
Oh, Sister Gail lets everyone know. Think you're a pretty good outdoorsman. We understand that she's actually a better shot. Can you share with us some of your favorite hunting and fishing stories?
Okay.
True ones.
Oh, I got to tell this, Gail. This isn't in the script, but I'm going to tell it.
Can you get me talking it out?
I'd always bragged to Gail that I was a pretty good shot, you know. So we got out, I took her for her first time out in this big duck swamp over at Al Bulmer's. So we're sitting there waiting, it's evening, and we're waiting, and the ducks are flitting around there. Suddenly, they're coming in. And I said, "Oh, look at this one, he is dead." And he's coming straight in at me. boom, boom, boom. And Gail, and I quote again, says, "You missed the son of a bitch." and even the dog just looked around. Anyway, when I was 19 years old, I met this fella, Boris McCormick from Leamington, and he'd come up here to plaster because, like, to look for a job because there was no work down there. So he became a good pal of Tony DiCarlo's. Anyway, we're all working together, and so he says, "Do you want to come down to Peely Island to hunt and Leamington?" And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." So we went, and from then on, we went every fall. And during this time, we took John Mose with us too. Jack Mose, everyone knows him by. And it was just a ritualistic thing. But during this time we were hunting, we're walking along, and it's very flat country, and you walk side by side, and the dogs work out in front of you. And I'm walking along, and there's a hedge there, and we come into a clearing, and there's two guys there. And I looked at them, and they were maybe from here to Genie away. And I said, "I know those guys." And McCormick said, "You don't know them." I said, "I know them. I know those guys for sure. I know them." And I waved at them like that, and they waved back. It turned out it was Bing Crosby and Phil Harris. And I thought, well, big deal, right? We went over there. We took hours and hours to drive down there and go across on their ferry boat. But Bing and Phil come in on their private jet. But you know what? They didn't get any more birds than we did. But that really threw me. I thought that was just great. And I hunted with Slip Matthews and Tony and Gail and Deacon Joe, and of course Loris and Drew Redpath and Gordon McDougall. And we had a great association. Every fall, I just lived for the fall. Gail hates the fall now because it means winter's coming and she has to close the pool up. I gotta tell you another thing about hunting. This is hunting from my living room. One night we're in bed and we hear bang, bang, bang. So I got up and looked out, and there's this great big coon out on the veranda, and it knocked everything all over. Oh, it was an awful looking thing, a huge, huge thing. And we did it for 2 or 3 nights, and we couldn't catch it. Tried to trap and everything, so I thought, I'm going to shoot that thing. And we got these windows that open like this. So I said, "Gail, you get ready." And I said, "Well, the lights are out, and as soon as we hear it," I said, "you stand there by the light." And I got the shotgun, double-barrel shotgun all ready. And the window's open. And I said, "When we're all set, we think the time is right, you flick that light." And I said, "He's dead meat right there." So everything's copacetic. We hear this noise, sneaks out. We're right standing there in our underwear in the dark, and all of a sudden she flicks the light on. Boom! And again, "You missed the sound." I hit it. And actually, I had hit the coon in the wishing well in the lilac tree. And I went outside and I couldn't find the damn coon. So I went out to the end of the lane and there it was. I had to fight it out fixing up the wishing well. So it says right here, Gail says you missed the SOB.
Now, you're a group of well-known friends and family, Tom King friends and friends. We also understand that you have your share of music experience with other characters as well.
Well, when I was growing up, I played with a lot of people. Bill Downer, Rip Saunders, Danny Bronson, Del Curry, Bob Kinsman, Ada Lee, Paul Minico. Played with a lot of people. But I taught a few people, or tried to. It's a very hard instrument to teach. I've taught one night in particular. I taught this old guy from Belleville come up, 82 years old, and he phoned me and he had heard about me. And he actually come up together, and he was having trouble breathing. He said when we were playing, but what had happened with him was we were going 3 or 4 notes at one time, and I said you only have to do one, so I had to teach him. It took a long time during that 3 or 4 hours, and he finally got on to this one note playing, and he phoned me back half a dozen times to thank me for it and everything, and so that was one challenge that I met pretty good. But another guy is is my neighbor, Tommy Dowdy, and he's 14, pretty soon he'll be 15. And I've never heard anybody with the potential like him in my whole life, and I'd like to call him up. We could play a song. Are you around here, Tommy? You gotta be here. Believe me, I haven't done a whole lot of teaching here. He's learned this mostly on his own.
Light a chair over there, Kirk, would you please?
Well, we could stand.
You want to stand?
Is he Carrie's son? Yes?
Yeah.
I taught your father.
Can we do one little one? I'm gonna say Tom is doing this mostly on his own. I'm not taking much credit for this. Oh, okay.
The song that you played up, Tim Hortons, you want
Oh,
to play that?
okay. Okay, I've got to tell you this story. Gail and I were sitting, we go up to Tim Horton pretty well every night, and you know, pretty well. We've got a half interest, I think. But anyway, during this night, we're sitting with Ann Usher and Virginia, and this huge, it was raining, this huge rainbow coming, the sun coming, here was this rainbow, and anyway, Virginia said, "That's beautiful," you know, and I looked and it was beautiful, and I said, do you like that song? She said, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." She said, "I love it, it's my favorite song," you know, Judy Garland and everything. So Ann Usher said, if Tom had a harmonica, he'd play it for you, I'm sure. And I thought, well, try and stop me. And here I am. Anyway, I'm gonna play that again.
the Virginia story. Virginia story here, we got.
Virginia,
Virginia.
that's Virginia. Virginia, would you stand up? Virginia, please. Oh, my daughter Sue is here, and the grandchildren, and they put in pools. And Sue works at Royal Gardens, and Shaylin, my granddaughter, works at Mary Maid, and the two boys work with Randy and Sons Pools. And Gail and I have done some traveling throughout the years, and the highlights of this traveling is, well, I gotta tell you about the crossing at Cornwall. Gail's mother and I were crossing at Cornwall. We're taking Gail's mother to see Peggy's Cove. She'd never seen that in her life. She hadn't been in too many places, so we thought we'll take her down there. So we're crossing at Cornwall, and we meet the customs officer, and he looked at us all, and he said, "Then what's your name, sir?" And I said, "Tom King, I'm from Lakefield." "And who are these people?" And I said, "Well, this is my wife Gail, and this is my, what do you call it, Gail?"
Mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law. I didn't know what to call her. This is my wife Gail, and this is my mother-in-law. He said, "Go right on through, you got your own troubles." We got through there, we hadn't got 100 yards down the road, and Gail's mother says, "It doesn't look a hell of a lot different than Canada." Gail and I, we would work 25 or 30 days straight, without a break, and then we'd go fly in fishing, or we'd go hunting or something like that. I remember one time, you probably saw that fish up there on the screen. I can't remember how big it was, but the picture weighed 5 pounds. And we fly in from White River Air Service, and they had places in North Bay, and Kapuskasing, and Wawa, Sault Ste. Marie, and they used to start it off. The Stan Duluth started this off, flying goods in groceries and stuff into the Indian people on these various lakes. And anyway, he sold this to his sons, and they sold it to Air Canada, and his two sons, they'd be 15, 16 years old, and each had a Cessna aircraft, and they'd take us in, fly in fishing. And during this time, it was only about a 20-minute flight, but they'd be going like this and scaring the hell out of me. But it probably took a half a drink of rum, every time. But anyway, we got in with those young lads, and those guys now, those two young lads, own Porter Aircraft on Toronto Island. Yeah, they really did well. They sold out well, and great guys. They're in their 50s now, but they're just 15, 16 years old then. So, that's quite an interesting thing.
And no license either.
And no life, oh God. Come on, honey, baby.
Yeah. Right here. Well, before we finish up, one last song, Tom, one more thought for the evening.
Well, I've lived in Lakefield a long time, since 1972, and I can't, I lived in Edmonton for a year, and I lived in Peterborough, of course, and I can't think of a better place in the whole world to live than Lakefield. I think it's just wonderful. People are nice, everybody's great. So.
Guess you've been here long enough to call the old boy? Or a Lakefield boy?
A relic.
A Lakefield old boy.
A Lakefield boy, yeah.
Yeah, right on.
We got one song here at the end, and you all have it in your in your seat. Tricia phoned me last night about 10:30 and asked me, you know Sentimental Journey? And I said, yeah, I do. So I hope it's in the proper key. I haven't tried this yet, but we're going to get into it. And you guys have to sing. Or it's going to make me look terrible. Okay, well, here we go.
One more, Bob, say it one more.
Are we done?
We're done, Tom, and thank you very, very much. Come back again.
Thank all the people, you're a great audience.
We have coffee and cookies are back there if you want to get interested at all. A little bit of snack and coffee. I'd like to thank you all for coming. It was a great crowd.
The Lakefield Historical Society would like to thank Tom King very much indeed, and we figure that that may help you on the other half of that place you go to. And I hope you will come back again.
Okay, I will.
May I remind you that Linda Parsons will accept your membership for the following year from here in the front.